This is Jess. Jess is she's the founder of the Listings Lab, and she's also been a real estate agent in Toronto. We've been kind of following Jess quietly in the background a little bit. We kind of first saw her at the Buzz conference. You've been at Reality, and then we just ran into you at Inman conference. So you've kind of been in our sphere in some sort of way. So we thought this would be a really good opportunity to kind of sit down with you. You've had some really good talks on some stages. I think I have a very similar crazy creative brain like yours. So I love that. So this is the first time Jess has spoken for us. But yeah, I thought she would be some value add for you guys. She's also written a book that we got, oh my gosh, at the Inman conference, More Money, Less Hustle. And I do have a copy here. So we may give that away somehow to you guys. And then we also have her Listings Lab. I'm like, digital screen. This is terrible. The Listing Lab book, which if you've ever seen her, you may start to see her pop up now on all your Facebook ads because she's got a very brilliant way of following you around the internet. So I'm sure you guys will all start to see on your Instagrams and your Facebook this Listing Lab book, which I saw just a couple years ago and thought it was really great. So it's just a quick read for you guys. So I'm sure she'll share that with you guys a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But today we're going to do, is it the 6 levers of growing your real estate business in 2023? I might have said levers wrong. Some people say levers, levers.
I think it's both. It's like, you know, it's the Canadian in me. Whenever I talk to Canadians, I say niche, but when I talk to Americans, I say niche. You have to, because you know, tomato.
My mom's American too, so we've got different ways of saying a few things. But yeah, I will let Jess take over. I believe you're on. I'm going to spotlight you as well, and cool. I'm going to let you take over.
Sounds good to me. I am going to play from start, and all right, so we are going to go through 6 levers to exponentially growing your business in 2023. I'm excited about this. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Because it's not a huge group, if you are on Zoom, please feel free to use the chat. Feel free to ask questions, type in something, make comments. It'll also make me feel like I'm not talking to myself. So feel free to kind of use whatever way you want to ask questions is fine. I start every training this way because I think that sometimes we get, as like a collective, we get a little zoomed out. There's so many Zoom trainings. There's so many live trainings that we're constantly watching or collecting information through screens. So to get the most out of this training, I'm going to bring you the goods, I promise. But if you could, do not disturb your phone, close out tabs, turn on your camera if you're here on Zoom. I really find that it makes a huge difference in terms of how much people get out of it. I find myself that way too. So who is this training for? Who did I build this for? Obviously, I built it for you. But this is really for new or established agents. And I think that that's really important to remember because a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today are a different way of thinking about things, even if you are an established agent. And it's also, I'm going to go through an audit process that you can do, and I suggest you do every 6 months or so. It'll really give you a lot of clarity. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is so that I can teach you how to take everything that we go through today and reapply it over and over to your business so that it's not just, okay, well, I got this information and I don't really know what to do with it from this point. So it's for new or established agents who want to use cutting edge, proven methods. And this is not only for, business growth, but it's also just in terms of, how you want to be looking and auditing your business moving forward. So maybe this is you're feeling a little stuck at the GCI level that you're at now. It could be 6 figures, it could be 7 figures, it could be less than 6 figures. Wherever you are, a lot of the time, what gets you here won't get you there. And so it requires a little bit of a different approach or coming at a problem or a stuckness from a different angle. Maybe you haven't cracked the code yet on attracting your perfect fit clients. A lot of this is really just going to come down to identifying where the biggest opportunities are in your business. So this is a little bit of an unpopular truth, but I think a lot of us who've sold real estate for a long time have felt this. if you're not able to develop a consistent and predictable marketing strategy that generates you high quality, high caliber clients on a regular basis, it's always going to feel hard. And I know I have friends who've been in the industry for 20 years, 30 years, and sometimes it still feels hard because they haven't nailed this one tiny part of their business. And it feels stressful. You sometimes are going to be worried about where's my next deal going to come from. And that's really one of the things that we're going to address today. This is my extremely handsome husband. And if you hear someone clearing his throat, he's right here, right next to me. He has been such a catalyst in terms of what I've built, not only in my real estate business. I look quite a bit younger actually in this picture now that I'm looking at it, but I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to figure out what worked when I was selling. And I wasted just as much money on random marketing agencies that, would pull in leads that were, fake phone numbers and fake email addresses. And I tried to do everything on my own without getting help, and it was difficult. And I spent a lot of time consuming information and trying to mix and match strategies, which also, it kind of confused my business as a whole. And because of that, what ended up happening is I put my marriage on the back burner because I was always I was like, I will focus on my personal life, on the things that matter to me personally once I get my business to a certain level. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that. So for those of you who have no idea who I am, I'm just going to give you like a really quick rundown. I have been featured by Forbes and Entrepreneur as an expert and pioneer of real estate marketing and methodologies. I built my own real estate business from scratch to 7 figures with a really small team. I did about 300 million in volume just in the last 3 years while I was building the Listings Lab. I created the Listings Lab. And this is like my baby now. And it focuses on genuine relationship building and giving agents permission to be themselves and attract the people that they want to work with. Oop, this says 2020. This should say 2023. We know that this works in a market shift. We know that it works because we're having people right now with having their best years ever, their highest GCI months ever. They're beating their former GCIs. And a lot of this is people who are coming in with no list. So if you have a list, you have even more of a leg up. So this is what we're going to go through. The 3 fundamental skills that all successful agents have that will lead to business growth. And then we're going to go into the 6 key business levers that will allow you to exponentially grow your business this year. So let's just start. I'm going to move through the 3 skills relatively quickly, but if you're taking notes, I would say do a self audit as we go through these. So the first skill that I see, I work with thousands of agents, and this is something that is number 1, is that they move quickly. They take action quickly. And information, and I think that there's a tendency, especially in real estate, because there's so many different ways of doing things, to information hoard, to read a lot of books and watch a lot of webinars and watch a lot of YouTube videos, but collect that information and not actually act on it. So the agents who I've seen that are super, super successful they make decisions and they move very, very quickly. So after the speed of implementation and speed of execution, the second skill is that they ask really effective questions. They're not asking questions that are Googleable. And they're using the resources that they have around them to find the question. So if they are speaking to someone who has a lot of expertise, if they're speaking to Katelyn or they're speaking to me, they're not asking a simple question. They're using that time and they're using that access for really, really effective questions that are going to have a dramatic impact on the way that they do things. And then the third one, and this is always going to be the hard one, they embrace the pain of change. So change is discomfort. And I'm not going to give you the cliche of get uncomfortable or get comfortable being uncomfortable, because no one ever feels 100% comfortable being uncomfortable. But there are going to be periods where you will have to put yourself in that situation. And whenever I talk about being in that pain of change, I always say that ready is a decision and not a feeling. So many people wait to feel ready, and nobody is actually ready until you decide to be ready. So I think that that's also something that's really important, especially if you're feeling stuck. So 6 levers. Here's what I'm going to get you to do. If you, excuse me, are sitting with like a book or a piece of paper or even like a notepad of some sort open next to you, I want you to write down these 6 levers, just 1 lever per line. Number 1 is lead generation. Number 2 is nurture. And I'm going to go through these in detail because you're probably thinking in your head and you're defining them differently than I'm going to. Number 3 is sales. Number 4 is delivery. Number 5 is referrals. And number 6 is repeats. So once you have those written down, as I go through this, we're going to do a self-audit. And I'm literally going to walk you through the process of how you can do this on your own every quarter or every 6 months or so. And this is literally how you are going to get clarity in terms of what you should be focusing on in your business every quarter or every time you're ready to actually do a push. I use this personally as well. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you're running. This is so critical in a service-based business to be able to make decisions and know you're focusing on the right things. Because I know that sometimes there's a lot of shiny objects out there, and it's really easy to get pulled in a lot of different directions and think, you know what, this sounds good, but I maybe I should be focusing here, or, you know, this person's doing this, maybe I should copy that. And it's really easy to get pulled in a lot of directions. So I'm going to define each of these for you. And as we go through these, I want you to, beside all of your 6 levers that you've written down, I want you to give yourself a score between 1 to 10. 10 being you are the master Yoda of this lever, and there is nothing that could ever be fixed or better. 1 being I don't do anything with this, or I'm having 0 success with this, and this is like a hole in terms of my business generation. So lead generation. Lead generation is purely new human beings who are now aware of you. So it could be new people joining your list. It could be new people who you are interacting with on social media. It could be just random phone numbers and email addresses that you're getting. This is literally new people only coming into your world. So I would say, and I'll give you, because it's hard to gauge, right? You're going to be like, oh, well, I have 5 new people a month. That's good. Depending on what level you are in your business, I would say at a bare minimum, this number should be in and around 200. So if you don't have 200 new human beings who don't know who you are and have never heard of you before coming into your world every month, you know what, I'll even lower that to 100 just to give you guys a little bit of wiggle room. 200 would be better, 100 being kind of the bare minimum. So if you don't have that right now, you would give yourself, and there's no judgment here, this is literally just an audit process, but you'd give yourself a lower number. If you have 1,000 new people, then you'd give yourself a much higher number. So you just rate yourself. And the idea behind this is purely brand new humans, because the next lever is going to build on what happens to someone after they become a new human, a new lead. So with these leads, these are always, for the most part, going to be cold. And the mistake that a lot of people make, especially when they're lead generating online, is they're going to think, well, Facebook leads are bad because they're auditing, or they're basing that determination based on the person who is brand new and completely cold. And all of those are going to be cold, and all of those are going to be bad quality. It becomes about what you do with that person after they become a lead. So this is the foundation to being able to build something that's a little bit better. So if we're talking digital, because digital is my love and my specialty, there's 2 different ways that you would think about bringing in brand new people. So social media, things like Facebook and Instagram. PR, so media attention, articles written about you, podcasts that you've been on, people joining your email list, things like that. So those are going to be organic things that you haven't necessarily paid to play. Then we have paid traffic, which is going to be ads. So just like boosting an ad or running an ad, it's basically just like taking a shot in the dark, which is why what I'm going to be talking about as we move through this is really going to be more campaign focused. So when we're talking about campaigns, we're talking about actually bringing the right people in on the front end, but then using psychology to take that person from stranger to client. That's going to come in a second. But again, give yourself that 1 to 10. Now, this is a quick little rundown. I dropped this in the chat. If you aren't familiar with my methodology of how I do things, you can just download the guide. It's free. You can just go to the Listings Lab guide, thelistingsLab.com/guide. It will go through this in so much detail, but it goes through the 3 things that you have to have nailed, especially in digital, in order to have inbound business. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more as I go through this. But again, I just really want you to give yourself a really honest 1 to 10. Now, your second lever. Your second lever is nurture. So this is what happens after they're in your world. So this is not conversion. And this literally is from the day that they are a brand new cold person who has just learned that you exist on this planet to the point where they're booking a conversation to talk to you about real estate. Okay, so this isn't sales. This isn't after, this isn't listing presentations, buyer consults. This is purely how good are you at getting that person from stranger to appointment. So a lot of the time, like I mentioned before, people are capturing emails, phone numbers, and followers. But the growth of your business will come from building trust and consistent and we say engagement, but engagement doesn't even necessarily mean like social media engagement. And engagement just means that they are engaging with you as a human. So this is the idea of deeper rather than wider. So this is how people are building 7-figure businesses with 2,000 followers. You don't need necessarily a huge audience. What you do need is you need depth. So how good are you at taking that person from complete stranger? And what the way that I'm putting this is more automated. So a lot of the time, if you're going to do this really well, it cannot be done manually. Because if you try to do this manually, let's say that your list gets to 10,000, you can't manually really well nurture 10,000 people manually. That's when you end up with teams and teams of ISAs and VAs and all of these people trying to do all of this stuff manually that really can just be done with really good messaging and a little bit of tech automation. So give yourself and I'm assuming that the majority of people are going to be low on the nurture. That's just kind of, that's normal. It's normal for what we see. So 1 to 10. And this is just an example of how changing out your nurture can make a really big difference. So I use Justin as an example a lot because he is such a good example, because when I started working with him, he was the least coachable human being on the planet. He grew up in real estate. He had a 6-figure business, but he was spending 100% of the money he was making. And his business wasn't growing. He was doing about 150 a year. And what we did is we changed out the way that he was bringing leads in, and we really nailed his nurture sequence. So we nailed the psychology from stranger to client. He went from, in 8 months, so he started working with us in March. He had $29 in his bank account. And within that first 8 months, he'd written 800,000 in contracts and in GCI. And that came purely 100% through nailing the nurture, because he wasn't trying to manually convert and chase a whole bunch of cold business. He's now got a 7-figure team. He's doing really well. He's starting another business because it's scaled and it's mostly automated. So give yourself a score of 1 to 10 on nurture. Now, sales. Sales is literally only the sales conversation. Okay. And when I define sales, I think that this is going to be something that is a little different for the way that you guys think about things. But I always say that real estate agents don't sell real estate. They sell services and they consult on the sale of real estate. So a lot of people, when I say to them, you know, what do you do for a living? And they say, I sell real estate. A lot of the time for me, I think in the back of my head, not really. Because you market real estate, you consult on the sale of real estate, but the thing that you are actually selling, that your marketing is selling, that you are kind of pushing forward as a business owner is your selling services. So when I'm talking sales in this capacity, what we're talking about is the sales conversation. So if you're a single agent and you do relatively well, your sales number is going to be very high. Maybe you convert, you know, listing presentations or buyer consults at 90%. But if you have a team or you have people who work under you, chances are that sales number will drop, and that's normal. So let's say that you have 3 people on your team, and when you send them out on buyer consults, they close them at 50%. That's about average, right? But let's think about the opportunity when it comes to these sales conversations. If they're doing, let's say that your buyer's agent on your team, or even you personally, you're doing 10 buyer consults a month, and you're actually getting, you know, BRAs or contracts signed with 5 of those. That's a 50% conversion. Now, if you every month took that to 60% or 70%, that could be an extra 1 to 2 deals a month. So 2 deals a month would really impact your bottom line. That's 24 deals a year, right? So sometimes it's just small tweaks. When we break this down, this is why we're breaking it down like this. So small tweaks, when you break it down, can actually have a massive impact overall. So let's say that like sales is where your biggest opportunity lays. And for the first quarter or for the next quarter, you spend your focus just on increasing this one thing. And you increase it 10% or 20%. And that remains consistent and you move forward with that. And then next, you work on nurture, because nurture is your next opportunity. And then you increase your nurture conversion by 10% or 20%. That in and of itself could triple your business, right? So that's really how I want you to break it down and look at this a little differently. So this could be inbound messages that are coming to you on Facebook. How are you closing those people to a conversation, right? So it doesn't really matter how many leads you have because so often I get people who say to me, I need more leads. That's the number one thing I need in my business. I need more leads. And then when we actually break down this process, it's actually not more leads that they need. They need to increase their nurture, or they need to increase their sales conversion. Okay, so give yourself 1 to 10. Now we have delivery. Delivery is the part that everyone thinks that they've nailed and that 99% of people actually haven't. So the question that I always start delivery with is, if I dropped 100 clients on your head today, I don't mean leads, I mean clients, ready to go, active, you know, a pre-approval in hand, would you be okay? Probably not. So when we think about it this way, right, this is where automating or having a signature system or having a process for your delivery actually really comes in handy. Because once you actually have that, you can create systems, scalability, automation, so that you're literally the only thing that you're doing or that human beings are doing in your business are the things that only human beings can do. It creates so much more efficiency. 90% of the time, it allows you to take on more clients without you being the bottleneck. And the general public truly believes that every agent just does the same thing, that we all fly by the seat of our pants, that we're all making it up as we go, and that there's nothing really systematized in the actual process, which is not true for some people. But if you are one of those people who you're like, I really don't know what my new unique value proposition is, I don't know what it is that makes me special. If you dropped 50 to 100 clients on my head today, I would my head would explode and I don't know how I would handle it. Well, then delivery is probably your biggest opportunity right now. Because the last thing that we want is to work on lead gen, work on nurture, work on sales, and then your business explodes and you actually can't service these people at a high level. And then people have a bad experience and you get a couple bad reviews because you've dropped the ball. or you get so burnt out that you have to shut your business down for 6 months. I've seen all of it. So delivery is really, really important, that you nail it and that it is scalable, so that when you turn on the pipeline of all the beautiful business that can flow into your business, that you can handle it all. And that you've created a system and a way of operating that is truly, or as much as it can be, unlimitedly scalable. And then all you have to do is, like, because everything's systematized, because you have standard operating procedures and everything, then you can take that and you can bring new people in and they can be trained. They have standard operating procedures and they're going to deliver the same way that you can. So I think that this is really important. So this is why I say, not only does bad news travel faster, but 86% of prospective clients read online reviews, right? It just takes a handful of people who are like, she didn't get back to me, or she dropped the ball on this, or, something like that. And that's also not who you want to be in your business. You want to serve your people at the highest level. And so a lot of that comes from not having to remember everything, not you having to be the person who is in charge of all the balls in the air. Because, like, let's say that you have 3 active clients or 5 active clients right now, that's easy to manage. But if your goal is to triple your business in 2023, take that, multiply it by 3, and then add that over 12 months. That's a lot of things to keep track of. It's a lot of people to keep track of. That's a lot of paperwork to keep track of. A lot of the time, what we do is we actually make things harder on ourselves. So this is why we want a signature system. Your signature system is a repeatable system for getting your clients the results that they want. It means that you have the necessary frameworks in place for you and your team now and in the future to be able to handle the work when there's too much work for you, when you're having dinner with your family, when you're on vacation. Imagine, I remember the very first time I went on a Mediterranean cruise with my husband, and for some reason, I don't know why I thought that there was going to be internet in the middle of the ocean, but surprise, there wasn't. And I got into the first port. We're in Italy, and I am panicked. We get into the first port. I open my computer up. I'm tethering to my phone, and everything was fine. And deals had happened in the 2 days that I had been completely offline. And literally, it was the best feeling in the world. I looked at my husband and I closed my laptop. And I thought, okay, I can step away. It's literally the first present vacation I'd been on in 10 years. And it was because I'd finally worked on building out a signature system and having a delivery system that was repeatable, consistent, and my team was trained on it. It was the most beautiful thing in the world. So, and you can't grow a team doing everything yourself. It's not scalable. You are only one human being with a certain amount of bandwidth. And so the mindset that a lot of agents fall into is, I am special, I'm the unicorn, I'm the only person that can do this. It is the most liberating, but also the most ego crushing thing in the world to realize that there are always going to be people who are better than you at things. And the more that you bring those people on and you have them in your world, the more that, like, it creates so much freedom. And I've gotten to a point now where I hire people who truly, I believe, are smarter than I am. And it creates so much more scalability, so much more brilliance, so much more results for people that we work with. The other thing too is, let's say that you have, the other reason why the signature system is so important, it's not only about delivery, but it's also about creating assets in your business, creating something that's actually sellable. So let's say that, like, I don't know, 10 years, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're like, I'm done. I've had a really good run at this. I am so proud of the business that I've built, and I am going to move to Belize and live on a sailboat. Well, that's great, but wouldn't it be great if you could just sell your business, right? And gone are the days where we can just sell lists. I remember hearing about, my mom's been in real estate for 35 years. And I remember hearing that there was this agent in Etobicoke that sold her database for $1 million. And I remember thinking, oh, that's so cool. Like, that would be cool to be able to do. Nowadays with online lead gen, nobody would buy that list. So it's so much more important. What people are buying now are assets. And they're buying systems and procedures. They're buying standard operating procedures. They're buying tech. So all of this being systematized and actually having a system for delivery is unbelievably important too when we're talking about future valuation for your business. All right, number 5, referrals. Now, you're probably like, oh my gosh, she didn't start with repeats and referrals. No, I didn't, because this is so, so important. The way that I've always looked at this is repeats and referrals are your icing and your marketing is your cake. And if you do your marketing really well and your delivery is on point, your repeats and your referrals will always grow. And your business will be exponentially growing all the time. And so many people, when we talk about funnels, if you can see me right now, which I hope you can, you know what, for those of you who maybe can't see me, I'm going to unshare my screen just for 1 second so that you can see me. So often we think about funnels just like this, right? So we've got top of the funnel, people come through, certain people fall off, they're not qualified, and we got bottom of the funnel, and this is what we're left with down here, right? I want you to change the way you think about a funnel, and I want you to think about an hourglass. You've got all these people top of the funnel, so this is your marketing. People come in, people trickle down, they get nurtured, sales, this is what you're left with. And then your delivery hits right here. And then if you do a good job, this is what your bottom of the funnel looks like, because all of those people here become repeats and referral sources. And then you end up with this shape. And it's so much more profitable, and you will end up with such an evangelism in your business, especially if you nail the delivery. Okay, so referrals. Give yourself a rating 1 to 10 on referrals. Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, 100% of business comes from my referrals. I'm a 10. I'm going to ask you a question that is going to directly impact how you rate yourself. How many deals did you do last year? Did every single person you worked with last year refer you one person? Okay, so then we have opportunity here. Because the most beautiful part of this is, let's say that they did. Let's say if you nailed this. So last year you did, I'm going to use round numbers, 12 deals last year. You did 1 deal a month last year. If every single person who you worked with last year give you 1 referral, guess what? You're starting this year where you ended last year. So you're literally building starting from 12 instead of starting from 0. And you get to compound that over time. Let's say that you've been in business for 3 years and you've done 12 deals a year for 3 years. Well, if you really nail this, 36 people should be referring you 1 person this year. And then your business is starting at 36 deals. So when we look at this and we really dissect it, it allows us to really think critically and not based on feeling. And I think that that's why this exercise is so important. So often people will make decisions and judgments in their business based on feelings and not really based on data and asking themselves the right questions. So people are 4 times more likely to convert when referred by a friend. We know this. Referrals are the easiest business, right? Yes, we still need lead gen. We still need nurture. We still need to have a lot of new people coming into our world all the time. And if you really nail your delivery, your systems, your follow-up, because referrals also fall back into nurture. Just because you did a deal with someone doesn't mean they owe you a referral. How are you maintaining that relationship? How are you nurturing them? How much automation is in your nurture, right? So all of this really comes back to nurture. And then it like the funnel basically creates like a loop at this point. Same thing with repeats, right? These are the things that people need to have repeat clients. You need a smooth delivery or your signature system. You need to have consistency and valuable content. So let's just talk social media, just as an example. People move, let's say, every 3 to 7 years. Are you giving those people a reason to follow you in between their moves? Or are you only relevant to them when they're actually actively looking? And I think most people are only relevant every 3 to 7 years. And so you're going to have audience churn because you're going to have people who truly believe that they're in their forever home. And we know that that's not true, right? So the easiest way to stay in touch with someone, honestly, is through social networks and to stay top of mind and to keep your content in front of them. But you can't only be posting like listings. You have to be giving people the emotional buy-in. People make decisions emotionally before they make them logically. And people will see you as a relationship if they have emotional buy-in. You could work with someone for 6 months. You could feel like, oh my gosh, we're like besties. But then after the closing date, what happens? Well, you have 800 other clients that you're dealing with, and you can't necessarily have dinner at every single past client's. You can't have your past clients out for dinner once a year, especially if your business really grows. Let's say that you're doing 200 deals a year. After 1 year, you're never going to be home for dinner, right? So we have to think about more scalable, more efficient ways of maintaining those relationships and staying top of mind. So give yourself so this is how you want to rate yourself for repeats. Out of 1 to 10, in the last 5 years, how many of these people have repeated with you? Or how many people have maybe repeated and you've kind of found out after that you didn't maintain the relationship and they worked with someone else? So now you've rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 for each lever. Where are your lowest scores? I would say 2 at the most, because I know every single person's like, oh my gosh, I can make changes in all 6 areas. But focus breeds excellence. So what are your top 2 that you get to focus on in the next 90 days? And those top 2, then once let's say that you get those up to an 8, then so fantastic, you get to move onto another 2. But as you get better at each of these, your critical eye will become more critical. And, in 90 days, you may say, okay, my nurture's at 9. And then a year from now, you might be like, oh, that nurture that I built out a year ago that I thought was a 9, now I think it's a 6. And so it allows you to constantly improve. And this is then how you get to audit your business over time. So, but one of the deadly sins is mixing and matching strategies. So no matter what strategy you guys decide to use in terms of creating that growth and creating that focus, whether it's ours or whether it's someone else's, don't mix and match them, right? Any process, when it's designed from start to finish, works when it's applied consistently. So a lot of the time what happens is I'll see people take a piece from here and a piece from here and a piece from here, and it doesn't go together. And it feels disjointed and the messaging's weird. And, you can see that this person this person must be following so-and-so because they're starting to do things a little bit like this, but then also a little bit like this other person. And it feels strange because it doesn't feel like it goes together. This is literally just so that you understand how easy it is to create change. So, and the fact that, because I know that a lot of people are like, yeah, she says this all the time, that inbound business exists, and I don't believe her. I promise you it does. And so, like Heather's a really great example, because I started working with Heather in 2020, and she was doing, 24 deals a year. Now she's doing 24 deals a month. And that happened over 2 years. It wasn't like, okay, well, this is 10 years later, and now we've really scaled over a long period of time. We took the 6 lever system, we figured out where the holes in the business were, and we plugged those holes immediately. And then over time, refined each lever so that it was constantly being improved. And we're talking hundreds of $millions worth of volume. And it is scalable. The hardest part with Heather was making sure that the delivery was able to handle the volume, because it had to be done well. So yeah, that's kind of my whole shebang. I just wanted to offer also, if you guys have questions, because I'm sure you guys will, that you can email me. That's my personal email. It's just jess@thelistingslab.com. It's pretty easy. And so Instagram, there I am. I'm very opinionated on Instagram, so just beware. I say the things that I think. And then I also have a Facebook group. If you're not in my Facebook group, there's about 32,000 agents in there. We give free trainings out almost every day. So constant trainings, constant assets. People ask me questions. It's a pretty special group. We've all been in a lot of real estate Facebook groups that are a lot of negativity and complaining. That is not what this Facebook group is. We allow 0% of that. It's a very positive group that's very much value first. That's it. Was that helpful?
That was
okay.
Awesome.
Okay, good. Because I think that sometimes like I don't mean, when I was thinking about what can I do for Katelyn, I was like, I feel like clarity, especially right now, is probably the thing that people are struggling with the most. What should I be doing? What should I be focused on? How am I supposed to even figure out where to start? So that's why I did this one.
Yeah. And that Facebook group is really valuable, guys. I know I'm like a quiet observer of the group, but I love it a lot. So if you guys are on Facebook, I would join it. She does give out quite a lot of stuff and like lots of videos and all of that. So it is there. I know there is a negative group out there that I'm thinking of, but I try to tune out of, but this one is very good.
Yep.
I'm sure we 100%. Know which one.
Yep.
I did have a couple questions just because I do have a mix of age ranges here and all of that stuff.
Totally.
So I kind of just I'm thinking of questions that they may have as well that they may be shy to ask. But when we're talking about like automating the nurture, are you talking about like more like email campaigns? What type of like automation are we talking?
So there's a couple different ways of doing this. I really like to segment lists based on warmth. Whether they've worked with me before, whether they've worked with that agent before, and really nail the psychology and the messaging so that it's specific for them and it doesn't feel like we're carpet bombing people with content. So there's a couple of different ways that we can automate nurture. Organically, we have social media, and we have and social media can be Facebook groups. Like I have a guy who messaged me like 2 days ago, and he's like, I'm doing 7 deals a month out of my Facebook group. He's like, it's free. It's fantastic. Yeah. Right. So we've got Facebook groups. Organically, your Facebook business page is going to be, not great. But Facebook groups, Instagram, like you've got your organic social media, you've got email. Absolutely. And watching your email open rates are super, super important. If you're under 20%, 30%, we need to look at it, because it just means that there's something wrong with your deliverability. There's, something going on with your spam. There's also maybe it could be subject lines. There's a lot of different things that need to be kind of looked at to make sure that you're at least getting delivered up to a certain point, especially for marketing emails. And then retargeting. So for those of you who don't know what retargeting or remarketing is, it's basically you are able to put a tag on someone and follow them around the internet. So that you'll show up in wherever that person lives or goes online. And it is one of the most powerful ways, especially if you're retargeting with content and you're not just retargeting with like things that look like a billboard. We live in 2023. Which obviously I forgot because I've had 2022 in one of my slides. Yeah. But in 2023 and beyond, awareness is not enough. And I think that a lot of us who grew up traditionally in this business, we grew up in a time of billboards, and we grew up in a time of bus benches and flyers. And I'm not saying that those things don't have a place, but what I'm saying is they're very expensive. And they also are, it's very difficult to have a targeted message that's going to create an emotional response in someone. And so a lot of this really just comes down to frequency and relevancy. And so again, like I always go back to the word relevancy because it's like the foundation of what I teach. If you're frequent and not relevant, you're annoying. So the relevancy of the message is so important, which is why, segmenting those lists can be so beneficial, because you're sending people what they actually want and what is actually valuable to them based on where they are in their journey, whether or not they just purchased, whether or not they've worked with you before. It's so easy to just segment a couple of lists and pick and choose some content that's going to be right for those people and stay top of mind and create a lot of value and maintain that relationship and nurture them really well, so that they, you reap those benefits in the medium to long term.
And how often are you like creating this content, like your email? Like, is it just like once a year you just set out like 20 templated emails, or are you like just every day you're like randomly thinking of something and you're like, that's
no,
a good email?
I'm a big believer in batching and automation, unless there's something that is very like in the news that we need to address, that is like a hot topic. Then yes, there will be a period where, okay, you know what? Let's pause this campaign and add this one email in and send it out. But for the most part, this can be a lot can be set and forget it.
Yeah.
A lot can be, and I think that that's really what turns people off of social media and digital marketing, is they think that it needs to be like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I run a Facebook group of 32,000, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think we post on TikTok. I don't even know. It's not a primary platform for us, but I spend maybe 30 minutes a day, 25 minutes a day, on social media.
And considering the amount that like we see you all the time, you would think it's like a lot more, right?
It's and I'm working on a piece of tech. My brother is 8 million times smarter than I will ever be, and his background is coding and AI and machine learning. So he's working on a piece of tech for me right now that I can give to agents that can take content and can not only repurpose it, but can also take messaging and create more content from that messaging in that person's voice. It's in the works. It's a mess right now, but I think that it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. And I think that a lot of the time it's the fear of showing up and being on camera that really holds people back, or they're worried about that one person who might be negative online. So just so that you guys know, this is like no one else has seen this before, but I really like to push the envelope when it comes to social media. Yeah. So I'm going to show you something hilarious. This is a scheduled post for tomorrow in my Facebook group. And the point of this is a pretty serious post. And that's the picture I chose because really at the end of the day, nobody cares what you look like. It'll get a couple laughs. People will be like, oh my God, Jess again. But you get to like be yourself and be silly and like have fun and still have a loyal, beautiful tribe of people who follow you and are, refer to you and think that you're brilliant without having to be like really stuffy and serious all the time. So I think sometimes it's that level of professional that people get really worried about, but people make decisions to work with people. People don't make decisions to work with businesses.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on like the people that are doing those like very professional, like those floating head videos with the scripts and all that stuff? Are those working as well as just having your own camera in front of you and makeup lists and
they're not working as well, because if it looks like an ad and talks like an ad, it's probably an ad. Yeah. And we've done a lot of research and there's a lot of like tech now and a lot of data that we have access to that shows that those types of videos, people scroll faster past them. Yeah. Because we actually have like a visceral response to being marketed towards. Mm-hmm. So if it feels too much like marketing and it doesn't feel like value, people don't like it. Yeah. And people actually feel repelled by it. So a lot of the time, this content and these ads and this stuff that people are spending so much time and money and energy on are actually having the opposite effect of what they really ideally want.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sebastian has a question there. How
Yes.
do you bring in 100 to 200 people into your world every week? That seems very challenging.
Yeah. So now this is something that will build over time. If you are purely organic and you're not running any paid traffic, these numbers are not going to be hit.
Okay.
My Instagram probably grows about 100 people, and this is every month, not every week. So my Instagram probably grows 100 people a week, but there's a lot of content that goes out on there. And there's also tens of thousands of dollars in back-end paid ads that are also driving. So I think that you have to think about this in terms of, let's say we're only talking about front-end lead gen ads. That's probably going to be $300 to $400 a month. If your front-end lead generation ads are good, to bring that number of people in to your world every month. So it also depends on what level of business you're at. If you're under 6 figures, you should not be running ads.
That's a good point.
You should be focused 100% organic, and you should be and I'm a really big believer too that from a paid traffic standpoint, if you're not generating 3 to 5 deals a month from your organic social media consistently, you're not ready to run paid traffic. Because why would you put money behind messaging that hasn't been vetted organically?
Yeah.
Right? I think that so many agents just throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and hope that something sticks, and then they come to me and they say Facebook ads don't work. And I think, well, it's not that Facebook ads don't work. It's that you don't know how to work Facebook ads because you haven't done the foundational stuff to make sure that they're going to be effective. And you're testing with money, which is, the most expensive way to test.
Yeah, exactly. And now we've talked about different platforms. I personally tell people Facebook is like my best one. And I know that seems old school, but it seems to be the best lead gen in terms of organic, to be honest, like in terms of people messaging. They may follow us on Instagram, but they'll message us directly on Facebook. Do you find that too, or is Instagram the best one? Or
for us, I mean, for what we've seen with our agents, it depends on the niche. Okay. So I would say if you're working with upsizers and downsizers, like upsizers, downsizers, a specific community base, like things like that. Facebook is still a really great platform. It's not my favorite platform to hang out on. Yeah. But it's the platform that I create the most for because it's where the results come from. If you're working with first-time buyers or young people, like really young people, gosh, I'm getting old, really young people, I would say Instagram. I think that so many agents are so concerned that they have to be on TikTok. And you absolutely do not have to be on TikTok. TikTok is a whole other animal. I love to consume on TikTok.
Same. It's
but
mean.
none of what I consume is business related.
Yeah. I know.
Right? Like I'm on Book Talk. Book Talk is like my favorite thing. And, or like Makeup Talk or, whatever. But it's that guilty pleasure of like consumption. You do not need to be on TikTok. You do not need to dance or point or do anything crazy in order to see results on social media. In fact, the best results that people are having on all platforms right now are casual face-to-camera storytelling.
Yeah, that's good. And then got a question. What's your best advice on improving conversations if we are better at nurture?
So awesome question. Really track. So there's a couple ways that you get to do this. And this is how all of this kind of starts to get connected. Really track objections that you're getting. What are questions that you're getting asked on a regular basis? What are the objections, whether they're market objections or they're service objections or they're, commission objections? What are those objections? And then really spend the time and effort to craft the response that you give and then add it back into your marketing. Handle the objection before it becomes an objection, if you can. Put it in put the objection handling parts into your process. So if they are an objection, how can you adjust your delivery or your systems to make sure that like that's not actually a problem? If you're getting a lot of financial objections, then we need to look at targeting and the types of people that you're attracting and the messaging, because you like the people who want full service and who want a really good experience and want a professional agent are not looking for you to do it for 1 point. So it could just be you're bringing the wrong people in, or and honestly, once you start to discount, it's really difficult to stop, because it's the referrals that you get, the word of mouth that you get are going to be, she did it for me for 1 point, she did it for me for 1 point, and it becomes this compound cycle that you don't want to even get into. So really, at the end of the day, having a unique value proposition, understanding who you're targeting with that marketing and what it is that they need from you in order to see that high value, that's really when you start pulling business away from like someone's cousin or someone's sister who does 3 deals a year but is, a hairdresser. I think that that's really when we start to see people really start to gravitate towards professional agents. This shift in the market is actually good for you, because it's not, people are starting to see that it's not just, any agent can get it done right now. People actually want an experienced professional.
Yeah. Now, if people are not on social media, is there a way to automate this, or?
So if you're not on social media, it's 2023.
Yeah.
And this is my answer. If you're not on social media, it's 2023. And that would be like being in the year 2000 and telling me that you're deciding not to have a cell phone in the future. I'm just opting out of having a cellular device for the rest of my life. And I think at this point, it's kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's how people interact and connect.
I agree. I say it too. So I'm glad you do it. It's good to hear it from somebody else sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, when I got my license, I got a pager. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. But, imagine if I was still running around with my pager and saying, can you fax it to me? And, you can page me and I'll find a payphone and I'll call you back. Like,
yeah. If anyone else has questions, I got one more. What email platform are you using to like if you're doing email campaigns, which one are you using?
You can use anything. We use Follow Up Boss.
Okay.
You can use Active Campaign, you can use MailChimp. It depends on how much automation you actually want in the back end.
Yeah.
I'm a big lover of Follow Up Boss because of the action plan automation that's available in it.
Okay.
But I really also love KV Core. I love MoxieWorks will work with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as long as it doesn't put a limit on, like, some CRMs used to have a limit of like, you could only have 1,000 emails in there, right? Those limitations are now being pulled out. So it really doesn't matter, to be honest, as long as there's tracking for open rates and click-through rates. That's the only thing that really matters at the end of the day. You can use a lot of different. Active Campaign is cheap. It's cheap. It works well. We still use it sometimes. So we have multiple email platforms that we use. Okay. But Active Campaign works really well and it's inexpensive and the tracking on it is good.
Perfect.
My answer was anything. Really.
Yeah, whatever you can use, right? Yeah, it's kind of like exactly. A CRM. Which one's the
whatever
best?
You're going to use.
Yeah,
the one that you're going to use.
Exactly. Awesome. That was really good, Jess. Does anybody have any questions? I've got Facebook here. I don't see any more. Awesome. That was really amazing. Thanks so much for all those details. For all of our agents, we will have it on our Facebook group. So if you guys want to go back to watch the session, I'll have it there. But feel free to join Jess's Facebook group as well. So you guys can kind of watch her Instagram. You'll see all types of content. I'm sure if you start to email her, you'll start to get her email campaigns too, to really get an idea. And I'm even sure she'll retarget
honestly,
you after.
The best, for sure. And the best place to start with any of this stuff in terms of like thinking about it is the guide. So it's just thelistingslab.com/guide. We will not spam you. We won't sell your information. It's literally like, we don't even ask for a phone number.
Yeah.
It's literally just first name and email, and we'll send that right away. It's probably like the best starting point.
Perfect.
Thanks,
That is
guys.
awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll see you on a stage at some conference very soon. What's the next one?
I am the keynote at Buzz Conference, March 30th.
All right. We'll see you at Buzz.
I'll see you at Buzz.
Okay. See you
Bye,
later,
guys.
guys.